Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Thanks so much for watching the last video, and I really hope you enjoyed it. This is kind of like our first official podcast, I guess. The last one was just a bit of an intro. Before we get going, I would like to thank Dean Kowalski. I'm not too sure if I'm pronouncing that right, probably not. And also another channel, The Subtoe, which again I'm probably not pronouncing right, but they both mentioned a few things about our audio, so we've kind of addressed that, or we're trying to address that for this episode. Let us know what you think about that in the comments below. But without any further ado, let's just crack on and welcome Scott.
Yes, let's go. Ready for round two, eh?
Hey, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, decent. You took a while to respond then. I was like, oh no, is it working? Absolutely killed me. But yeah, I'm quite relieved, to be fair, to see how many comments and likes you got on your little channel.
Mate, it's all right.
Yeah.
I think this should bring sort of like a different perspective to the channel, and a different way that, you know, different kind of vibe as well, which would be good.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully we can just get it on obviously Spotify and podcast as well with our faces for radio.
Yeah, that's another thing we definitely want to mention. Thanks to those of you who are interested on getting on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We are looking at doing that because we do appreciate we aren't the best looking chaps in the world. We do have faces for radio, so
Cheers, mate. Cheers for the confidence booster.
yeah, well, you know, life's a bitch.
How have you been this week?
Yeah, not
What have
too
you been
bad,
up to?
man. Not too bad. Just focusing on training, to be honest, really. My back, as you know, has been like annoying me a little bit, so just trying to focus on the rehab as much as possible, which is boring as shit, but it needs to be done, doesn't it?
Yeah. At least you're kind of in the right time frame to be doing it, though, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? No
Yeah.
races coming up.
Well, that's it. It's kind of like a bit of a blessing at the minute. There's not too much on the horizon, so I do have time to focus on everything else.
How have your athletes coped with Corona at the moment?
They're doing well. Like, they're treating it as a way to get ahead of the competition, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, solid. Good way to think about it.
Yeah. A couple of people are, you know, like everyone, I guess, they're kind of not too sure what's going on, not too sure what to focus on. So I guess that's where my job comes in, is to try and make sure that there's a solid goal that they can focus on that keeps them motivated.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's probably one of the most important parts of having a coach. Is obviously this doesn't happen ever so often,
Yeah.
but obviously how it has happened, those people that do have a coach have definitely just got a plan to work towards.
Yeah.
And obviously they've worked with their coaches and they've managed to get to a goal. I know my athletes are exactly the same.
Yeah.
We've obviously spoken, and we've got a plan to go to for however long this lasts, before we can then start thinking about either racing or even in here. Obviously, we need to have military fitness tests. So we've got people focusing on different things, and not necessarily worrying about that one race, but just worrying about general health. And I think that's probably going to be the biggest thing that's going to come out of this.
Yeah, I think it just gives you peace of mind, doesn't it? Like, if you've got a plan, it just takes away that worry of not knowing what you need to do. Like, you know what you need to do, and you're like, yeah, let's just do it and get on with it.
Yeah, definitely, massively. Yeah. And that obviously brings us on to today's subject quite nicely, really, of kind of the main part that we're going to speak about, which is almost, does training more make you a better athlete? I.e. the grafters out there, and the people that put in hours every single week. Like, does it make you a better athlete?
Yeah. I think it looks good on Strava.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the issue, is like there is this weird misconception that the more hours you do, the better the athlete that you are, and it's not really the case, is it, mate?
Nah, definitely not. And I remember when I was competing quite highly, I remember having loads of arguments with my coaches when I was 16, and I thought I knew what was right at the time, and I thought I was Mr. Perfect when far from it. But I remember Alistair Brownlee coming out on one of his documentaries and stating that he does 40-hour weeks.
Yeah.
And instantly there was a spike in training levels. Like everyone that I spoke to was like, "Oh, I need to get 40 hours."
Yeah.
Ali Brownlee does it just because he was the best in the world.
Yeah.
But in actual fact, it can cause you more damage than good, eh?
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely like it. It's weird. Like there's just these athletes, and I think we've all made the mistake as well. You see what someone else is doing, and you try and replicate it because they're better than you, and you think that that's the answer.
Yeah, definitely. You see someone else's training and you want to do what they're doing because you want to be better than them, or you see someone's done a 20-second power peak test and the competition, like we all are, all competitive athletes, you want to do better than them, and instantly you try and get that 20-second power peak in your training, and like is it beneficial, or should you just be carrying on with your program? And
Yeah.
again, coming back to the coach, those people that do have their coach will have that set goal at the end, and they will know exactly how important that rest period is.
Mm.
Which, if you're training by yourself, you almost get carried away.
Yeah. I guess it's knowing also like when to rest as well and when to back off, because if you don't have someone telling you to do it, you don't really know, do you? And so you might end up pushing too hard,
Yeah,
and then potentially you get injured and you become ill or whatever it is. But also you might back off
yeah,
too easy as well, or too soon, and then you might have that thing in the back of your head where you go, oh, what if I pushed on a little bit harder, blah blah blah. So it's hard, isn't it?
yeah, massively. You almost become in worse shape than before you started, and you're almost like wondering why. And it's simple because like the cell is considerably weakened, and obviously that's why you're struggling for days, and potentially weeks. You've gone from potentially doing nothing, and especially during this period as well, people are probably training a lot more because of their boredom,
Mm-hmm.
and due to lockdown, trying to get away from their families, trying to get away from their kids, trying to get away from their partners, and they're trying to train more and more and more. But in fact, they've actually gone from like 10-hour weeks
Yeah.
to now like 20, 30-hour weeks. I know you screenshotted someone to me that said that they're doing a 20-hour week this week.
Yeah.
And I would be really intrigued, not to see this week, but to see their next 4 weeks and their previous 4 weeks.
Yeah,
because
I mean,
they've just gone up massively in training.
Yeah, I'd be really interested to see, like you just said, what they've been doing or what their training looked like the kind of month or the couple of months leading up to this pandemic, because it'll be interesting to see were they like you just said, were they doing 10-hour weeks because they've got family commitments, they've got job commitments. And I'm not slating anyone who does that. To be honest, hats off to any age grouper out there who has a full-time job, family, training as well. Like, you are incredible. That's amazing. But I would just be interested to see, are these the people that were doing that? Are they suddenly in lockdown? They're going, I've got loads of time on my hands. I'll double the hours that I'm doing in my training.
Yeah, definitely. And especially with nothing almost to train for. At this current time, obviously, you did say that, yeah, they're trying to get one up on their competitors, but it's all about training right.
Yeah.
In order to race at the highest possible level that you can and achieve that highest level of fitness.
Yeah.
That you can achieve.
Yeah.
What are you telling your athletes?
It's basically, so what I've been trying to tell them is that this is kind of like a maintenance phase, as it were. You want to be in a position where if races do come around the corner, you're in an okay position so that you can then do, a bit of like a race development phase or a race build phase, so you can get to that level of fitness that you need to be for that race. But also, it's kind of balancing that with the fact that you don't want to get to peak fitness or any kind of anywhere near peak fitness right now, because we just don't know, do we?
Yeah. So I've kind of taken like a different approach to what you've taken. And I've kind of told my athletes to almost take this mental break. We're almost going to go with trial and error a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to focus on their mobility.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to focus a little bit on their strength and their joint and muscle coordination. And we're kind of going to focus on everything that's not necessarily not triathlon, but those things that they don't really incorporate into their training. We're going to focus on their nutrition. We're going to focus on their rest periods. We're going to focus on their sleep. And then hopefully, when they do go back into race season, that 10% of what they've almost achieved during this time round, hopefully they can then achieve whilst race season is going ahead, because it comes almost like a normality of their training.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of doing it, is working on the things that you wouldn't normally, let's say, get time to work on, or you wouldn't normally think about, and actually then those habits over this period of time, they lend to your performance when you go back to actual racing and normal training.
Yeah, massively. And I know you've been doing that as well, incorporating it into your training, especially with your lower back, haven't you?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, normally I wouldn't really get too much time to focus on it. I say like, oh, there aren't enough hours in the day, but it is one of those things.
Yeah.
Like, normally we're just running around like headless chickens, but actually now you've got a bit of time. It's nice to just focus on it and just dedicate an allocated amount of time every single day and go, no, I will do this because I do have the time.
Yeah. Have you had any athletes say to you, "What happens if I lose fitness?"
You know what? That has been one of the biggest things we kind of talk about is athletes worried that they will lose fitness. And it's surprising because it's one of those things. If you look into how long it takes for you to lose fitness, I mean, it's surprising, isn't it, mate? Like it takes a lot longer than you think.
Yeah. So I've actually got a little journal or a little transcript here from the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research, which was in 1994.
Okay.
However, it probably still relates. There's probably a lot of other researchers a lot before that time that are still in place now, especially within muscle building. You look at Arnie, people are still doing exactly what Arnie are doing.
Yeah.
But for some reason, triathletes want studies from last month,
Yeah.
1994. But so this is 3 weeks of not training at all, let alone to what most athletes especially that we're coaching, and hopefully that other coaches are prescribing their athletes too, of just maintenance. Now, these people obviously 3 weeks not training at all. Their aerobic capacity or their VO2 max, how much blood's going into their getting pumped around their body, was only an 8% minus. Their heart stroke volume, so the blood per beat pumped around the body, was minus 10%. Their submaximal heart rate, their beats per minute, increased by 4%.
Okay.
And there isn't really anything in here that their time to fatigue is probably the biggest one that a lot of people will probably understand the best. It was in minutes, and it was minus 10% from what they started at. So obviously that's almost like going at a maximal pace, and how quickly obviously they fatigued before and after training, or before and after not training as per se. But we look at that, and as you said, it's almost not really at all, is it?
Yeah, and I think that's one of people's biggest issues or worries right now, is that, if I've got all this time out of the pool, I mean, I know it's been longer, lockdown for most people has been longer than 3 weeks, but people are going to be worried, am I going to lose fitness? Fitness doesn't actually go away that quickly, but yes, you will still lose. I mean, the feel for the water and your technique might be a bit rusty when you get back in, right?
Yeah, definitely that muscle core coordination, and almost like all of your motor control units inside your body will obviously go a little bit, but it's not going to evaporate.
Yeah. So, bringing it back to the kind of, is it better to train more or train less, or do you become a better athlete if you just put in more hours? What would you say to someone who had that view, and what would you say are like the biggest issues with that ideology, that you just need to train more to get better?
First of all, I would. So there's a famous story that came from ancient Greece, and he became the strongest man. Milon of Croton.
Okay.
I've got that wrote down. But so essentially, he carried a calf. You've probably heard the stories. He carried a calf from when it was first born, and he carried it every single day.
Okay.
And now he didn't. Obviously, that calf is going to grow a little bit by a little bit every single day. And again, this is only a story. Eventually, he will get to a point where he can't lift it anymore.
Yeah.
But essentially, he's progressively overloaded his training. So you've got to think, and there's so many ways to overload your training. There isn't just time. You can add intensity, you can add workload into there, you can add tempo into there. You can add shorter rest breaks in between your aerobic capacity workouts. There are so many different ways in which you can fatigue yourself, other than increasing your time to 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
So my advice to someone would probably be trying to jump on that aspect as much as I can, and getting them to understand training as opposed to just hours.
Yeah.
And my second would be injuries. I'd probably go around asking them about their previous injuries that they've had, and a lot of them previous injuries would probably be when they first started the sport. Because I know when I first started the sport, and probably same with you, you thought instantly, oh, I have to run this amount of miles a week, I have to cycle this amount of miles a week, and I have to swim a certain time a week. And instantly you get to a point where you just can't take that impact of demand anymore, and you have to have short rest breaks because you fatigue longer and quicker, and you start to pick up these little niggles and injuries because you're training so much.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. I definitely had the same sort of thing, and right now I'm going through a bit of a kind of low volume, high intensity block, and I'm doing more of like a run focus at the minute with like a 5k sort of PB in mind. And
yeah,
basically I kind of haven't gone over 15 hours for the last sort of 2 months, to be honest, I don't think. And actually the intensity's been there, which has been brilliant, because I find like I respond better to high intensity rather than high volume. So again, like, yes, we're talking about this from our point of views, but it does come down to like, yes, every athlete is different. They respond to different loads of volume and intensity, and also different kind of distance that you race as well. You know, if you're an Ironman athlete, then yes, obviously you're going to need to do a certain level of volume, and if you're a shorter distance athlete, then maybe you'll do more in high intensity. But I've been working on a high intensity, low volume block, and my training has kind of just, it's been so much better. I feel much better. I don't feel as tired, and I'm still like getting some incredible results from my training.
Yeah. So obviously I'll send it to you later, but there's a sports science, again, a strength and conditioner, YLM is French, I think, and he does loads and loads of studies, and he kind of puts them in infographics for people like me and you to understand. But essentially, he got his athletes, he got 20 cyclists, and he got 10 of them to work 20 seconds sprinting, 10 seconds rest to batter, or it was something along those lines. And he did like 10 rounds of it. And he then got the other 10 cyclists to perform 5 by 4 minute intervals.
Okay.
And at the end, he did their FTP results. Now, the people that had done, surprisingly, obviously it's only 20 minutes, but 20 minutes, a lot of people would probably put as their like threshold limit.
Yeah.
Hence why we do the FTP test for 20 minutes and not 10 or 5 or 3, and not much longer. And the guys that were doing 20 seconds obviously increased their power output a lot higher than the guys that were doing 10 minutes, 5 by 4 minutes. And they increased their overall FTP along with some other human physiology changes there as well. So in actual fact, you look at that and you compare to your training. Obviously, it does depend on that individuality, but that's that whole trial and error period at the moment that we can kind of gauge. And actually, volume or duration doesn't often peak intensity, and intensity can sometimes be that. I think the underlying factor to what a lot of people almost miss in their training, or they do too much of it.
Yeah. I mean, there was one thing that actually, it was one of my athletes. He said to me, you know, ultimately, Harry, if you want to run fast, you have to run fast. And it kind of sounds a bit stupid, right? It sounds a bit obvious, but it is true. Like, if you're just doing hours and hours and hours of trotting along at one pace, you're not actually going to get much quicker. Whereas if you fluctuate it, and if you do intervals, really high intensity intervals, and then super, super easy stuff, that's the way you're going to get quicker.
Yeah, exactly. And you look at elite athletes as well, like people like from the running background specifically, like Mo Farah. Do you think he just goes out for 6 hours runs
Yeah,
every single day? Like, no, of course he doesn't.
yeah,
He incorporates tempo runs, he incorporates speed runs, and he does that on purpose. He runs on a treadmill as fast as he can
yeah,
for the most amount of time he can. He does it on a treadmill because he trains his legs to get that speed.
yeah. And
Um,
there's another thing which kind of like links to this, I guess, is that there's a lot of people. I mean, and I've fallen into this trap as well, and I do occasionally find myself falling into it again, and I have to kind of pull myself back. Is like athletes that kind of they just train in that grey zone in the middle, like we've kind of just touched on. Whereas you should, for your easy stuff, it should be like embarrassingly easy. Like I always say to myself and the athletes that I coach, like if you're going out on an easy run and you don't feel stupid going that pace, you're running too quick. And then on your hard stuff, that means that you're in a good place, so you can go hard.
Yeah, yeah. Like, and the struggle to tell athletes that at times,
Yeah,
and again, I'm the same with you. I think every athlete is the same because they look down on their GPS computer and they see numbers,
yeah.
and then numbers can either be at fault or at ease. And I actually went out for a cycle ride with one of my athletes the other day, and I asked her when we were going up a hill, what are you looking at when you go up the hill?
Mm,
And now for me, I'm pure data overload. I love looking at speed,
yeah,
watts, my heart rate, my cadence. Like I love data analysis. I'm absolutely crap with numbers,
yeah,
but I love the data side of stuff, especially when I'm going out riding.
yeah.
And I kind of know what's good and what's bad,
Mhm.
and what I used to compete at, what people like you compete at, and what other people do on Strava. And I often try and almost like compare myself to
Mm.
them. And when I asked her, she literally said to me, nothing.
That's good. Yeah, I mean,
I was like,
it's a complete skill as well to train and to even race by feel. I mean, I know that Joe Skipper, a couple of races that he's done, he hasn't taken his Garmin out with him. Or Daniela Reef as well. She used to. I don't know if she still does. Not take her Garmin, or used to like attach it to the bottom of her seat, so she still gets to upload it to Strava, but she can't see it. And I think it's such a skill to have, rather than we've got all these numbers which I think are brilliant and it's incredible to have them, and yes, they are very useful, but also knowing your body and being able to go, oh, maybe I'm pushing a bit hard, or actually, oh no, I can go a bit harder.
yeah. So when I was going through training for the RAF as a school of physical training, I went through with Aaron Harris,
Mhm.
Commonwealth Games triathlete.
Yeah.
Now, hopefully we can get him on the show.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe I'll have to do a bit of persuasion with him. He's trying to get
Yeah.
into the modelling world, I think. So if anyone's got him on Instagram, he's trying to get in the modelling world. He's probably not doing so well. So when he went out for runs, he literally never ever wore a GPS watch, and he kept going out with this Casio watch,
Mhm.
and he literally all the time he literally just said to me, "Hear your breathing,"
Yeah,
or "How do you feel?"
yeah.
And every single time it was just like that. He never ever used to wear any GPS watch at all.
Mm.
Again, it was just all on feel.
Yeah.
I tried doing a race at Eton Dorney 3 years ago, and I took my watch off for it. And actually, in fact, have you ever heard the Bumblebee story?
I've not, no.
Um, so so if you look at a bumblebee, you probably think they are the shittest. Like just on the table, you had no idea what it was, and you worked for NASA. NASA actually did a study on them, and how the fuck bumblebees can
Yeah,
fly.
right.
Like, how on earth can they fly? They're fat, they're hairy,
And their
their
wings are
wings are
tiny.
fucking tiny. Yeah. So you look at like them three aspects, and then you look at say like the Concorde, and you're like, they are two completely different things.
Yeah.
Like, how on earth does a bumblebee fly? And but you take that into like our aspect of training, and I think often at times, and again, me and you have definitely been caught out by it. You look at your watch and you think, oh shit, 6 minute mile, I
Mm.
am absolutely fucked. For you, it's probably about a 4 minute mile.
Yeah.
And you just think in your head like, I am gone here.
Yeah.
And then instantly your heart rate goes up because you pant a lot and you breathe heavier.
Yeah.
And bang, yeah,
Yeah.
you're in the red zone straight away.
Yeah.
So again, yeah,
It's like it's making sure, like, using the numbers in a good way, rather than asking, kind of like it's almost asking the numbers how you feel, isn't it? Like getting the numbers to tell
yeah,
you how you feel, rather than actually looking, at yourself and just feeling and going, oh no, I feel this way or I feel that way, rather than looking at your watch and going, okay, that's how I feel.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the takeaways from this is, number one, I think we probably hammer home quite a lot. Get a coach because they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But I think most importantly, hopefully, we've kind of given like the viewers a little bit more of of almost like a coach's eyes to things.
Yeah.
On what we're expecting from our athletes.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and also what I would say is if people do have any questions about anything we've mentioned, do drop that in the comment section below because we will get back to you or we'll mention it on the next podcast. But there was one thing, I don't know if I sent it to you, mate, but it was a TED Talk, and I will link that in the description below as well. All of the stuff that we've mentioned, whether it's come from Scott or myself, we'll link that in the description below so you can check that out. It was a TED Talk by some guy, and I think the title was how amateurs can train like a pro athlete, something like that. And he talked about the best cross-country skiers in the world. And like, obviously you've got to be fucking fit to be a cross-country skier. And he was saying...
They have the highest VO2 maxes.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And he was saying they adopt that kind of 80-20 rule, which is, I mean, everyone knows about the 80-20 rule. And he basically said when they go out on their longer runs and their easy runs, they literally walk up hills because they don't want their heart rate to spike that much because it's meant to be that easy so that when they do their hard sessions, they can really go into the red and they can force themselves hard. Because the issue is if you raise your easy sessions and you raise your easy level, then your hard level is going to have to come down because you're already like you're in a box already.
Yeah, you're fatigued. You're too fatigued to get into that red zone.
Yeah, that kind of concludes this episode. I really hope you enjoyed it, everyone. If you did enjoy it, as I always say in my videos, please like, please share, please comment, and please subscribe if you haven't done already. Make sure you click the bell icon so you don't lose out on any other future content that we create. And I really hope you enjoyed the video. Like we said, if you do have any questions about anything that myself or Scott mentioned, drop it in the comment section below. We will be answering any comments that you have in the comment section and also in next week's video as well. But yeah, thanks for that, Scott.
Nah, Ledge, been good, mate. Again, hope just everyone enjoys it. And again, as you said, just to reiterate, if anyone's got any questions, then obviously please throw them at us.
Yeah, cool. Nice one, man. Well, I will see you next week.
Ledge, thank you very much. Time for chicken fajitas for me.
Yay! I got a barbecue.
Oh, posh boy. Little posh boy.
Yeah. Oh, you shut up.
All right, bud. We'll catch you later. Cheers,
Right, mate. Talk to you in a bit. Bye-bye.
Cheers, Ned. See you later.